story now. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa says that allegations levelled against some ANC deployees linked to the Gupta family amount to criminality and that police must take action. He was speaking at the South African Communist Party's 14th Congress taking place in BOKSBURG on the East Rand. He again called for the President to set up a judicial commission of inquiry into state capture with urgency. Now, joining us from our Pretoria studios is Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who's going to help us analyse today's events. Professor, always a pleasure to have you on the programme. Thanks for joining us. What do you make of Deputy President Ramaphosa's speech today? It seems that the robustness and the vigour in which he's speaking, he's raised it up a level.
Oh, certainly. I do think that up until the recent policy conference of the ANC, his endorsement was mainly by the alliance partners. Now that he realized that he has a very strong constituency within the ANC itself, and having judged the mood about the frustration on these damning allegations of corruption and state capture, he might be finding his voice. And also it is a calculated move to launch his campaign because he knows that Kgalema Motlanthe made one mistake of waiting until 1 month before the December conference to launch his campaign.
I mean, he was quite direct today, the first time mentioning the Gupta family and I suppose indirectly pointing a finger at very specific senior leaders of his own party when he talked about millions being used of taxpayers' money being used to sponsor this wedding at Sun City. Certainly,
I do think that he understands that the public anger, the societal anger over these allegations and reports is such that if ANC doesn't speak about them, then it will be seen as being defensive, it will be seen as being mild and dodgy about it, and the opposition and civil society will take the matter up, and ANC will do what it has been to be on the back foot again. But if ANC shows that it is in charge and it is leading the process, certainly I do think that he understands that. But at the same time, he knows that the bulk of people fingered in these reports happen to be in the faction that is opposed to him. But they are not in an easy position to respond vigorously to these charges.
One of the things that he spoke about was these terms that the Bell Pottinger Public Relations Company came up with, supposedly, white monopoly capital amongst other things, and he accused the members of his party of hanging on to these words, even being prepared to die for them. But the question must come, you know, he's number 2 in this party. Could all of that have happened without his knowledge at all?
So it seems, because it looks like a factionalized party does have a parallel process. Just like the state itself now, it is quite clear that you do have a parallel arrangement in most of the state institutions that may not be immediately obvious to others. Or he may have been aware, but waiting for the right timing and also judging the support.
So the South African Communist Party have pressed the pause button in terms of whether they should leave the tripartite alliance and form their own sort of mission in the next elections, waiting to see what happens at the ANC's elective conference at the end of the year. Deputy President Ramaphosa is saying, don't let people destroy this alliance. But what does need to happen in December for the South African Communist Party to stay in this alliance?
I would assume that if the candidate they have indicated they preferred, which is the Deputy President of the ANC now, wins, then they are likely to stay on an understanding that they'll work better and they may address some of the issues. If the alternative candidate wins and there may be allegations of any irregularities, they may use that as a reason to walk away. But even walking away, it might be a calculated move where they are judging where COSATU and its affiliates are and whether those will support it if it were to stand alone or join any particular federation or arrangement. Then also they may have the seats and bargain with the seats in a coalition arrangement.
The South African Communist Party itself is looking like it's not changing its leadership, it's not changing its guard. President Somadoda has been at the helm for many, many years now. Is this an opportunity for them to reset, or what might be the benefits of continuity?
I do think that they have cleverly used the current crisis to say that testing new waters, testing new leaders who may take time to find themselves and find the ropes is the reason. But again, over time, they may have to rethink, once all these things have happened and passed, on how to renew themselves by changing the guard.
I mean, we're seeing the EFF has a young leader, the DA has a young leader, and the SACP Youth League itself are saying, look, we want state power. And it looks as if Solima Paila might be their choice to take the party forward. So is this a question that they're busy grappling with?
Certainly, I do think that he has a good shot. He has shown himself to be fearless, courageous, and he has articulated quite a number of sensitive things quite directly. And therefore, in succession, you will have to keep your eye on him. You also have other young, leaders and young layer, including those who are in the leadership of the SACP, youth wing, who may take over in time. But it is true, though, that the former liberation organizations currently are headed by people who are generally older, even though you do have the greatest challenges of today facing, in the main, the young people.
So, Deputy President Ramaphosa also calling on this judicial inquiry into state capture to happen sooner rather than later. We now have Advocate Busisa Mkhwebane also following suit and adding her weight to this. Might this force the President's hand and move quicker with this, or find himself in a situation where he's on the opposite end of popular opinion?
Certainly, the President will now be forced, even from within the party itself, to move with speed. But also he faces another risk. If he used the judicial review as a reason to delay, he might find a new president of the ANC and an ANC leadership that may actually be under tremendous pressure to take this particular matter forward after December without him being able to influence it. And in that situation, it might actually even be more lethal. It might even sting more against him because he will have been forced to do so.
All right, Prof, we've run out of time, but very briefly, given what we've seen today from Deputy President Ramaphosa, what are we likely to see in the coming months now? It seems as if the game has changed.
Heated campaign, and you are likely to see Cyril Ramaphosa and those supporting him hitting hard on corruption because they know the other side is quite vulnerable and is mentioned, and it will be kept busy by some of these processes, legal or commissions or parliamentary committees. And that in itself, I think, will be quite an intense period, but an awkward period as well.
Professor Somadoda Fikeni, thank you very much indeed. As always, your insights are greatly appreciated. Have a good evening. That was Professor Somadoda Fikeni talking to us from our Pretoria studios on today's developments at the South African Communist Party National Congress, which is underway in BOKSBURG. Now, moving on to other